Kansas City Chiefs are going to break the NFL with this. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Kansas City Chiefs news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story is Kansas City Chiefs speedy receiver named top trade candidate that could break the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs are set to defend the Super Bowl for a second straight season. They would love to become the first team to ever win 3 in a row and made moves during the offseason to ensure they are in a position to. One of the areas the team needed to find upgrades was at wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes is excellent and capable of covering up issues, but even the greats need some help, General Manager Brett Veach got to work upgrading the wide receiver depth chart. In free agency, the team made a shrewd signing, poaching Marquise Brown away from the Arizona Cardinals. Brown has a chance to repeat the formula that Juju Smith-Schuster did in 2022. He signed a 1-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs and parlayed that into a multi-year deal with the New England Patriots in free agency in 2023. Along with Brown, the team added Xavier Worthy to the mix. A first-round pick out of Texas, Worthy possesses world-class speed. Andy Reid is going to have fun drawing up plays to get the ball in his hands. With those additions, and Rashee Rice cementing himself as a go-to option during his rookie season, some of the wide receiver depth on the team could become expendable. That is partly why Sky Moore has landed on a list of potential trade candidates this season. Anthony DeBona of Pro Football Network has selected Moore as the one player the Kansas City Chiefs could look to trade. Following Tyreek Hill's departure, the Kansas City Chiefs selected Sky Moore in the second round of the 2022 NFL Draft. Moore was supposed to be an explosive weapon in Kansas City's offense, yet he has struggled to find a consistent role, DeBona wrote. Moore has been extremely disappointing for the team to this point. He has caught only 43 passes for 494 yards and 1 touchdown, adding 6 rushes for 47 yards. A knee injury ended his 2023 campaign prematurely. With 2 new options for the Kansas City Chiefs to rely on atop the depth chart, Moore is, at best, the number 4 option at wide receiver. He is potentially even lower, as Justin Watson and Mecole Hardman could conceivably be ahead of him as well. Along with Kadarius Toney, Moore could be fighting for a roster spot in training camp. The only thing that could keep him with the Kansas City Chiefs is the uncertainty surrounding Rice, who is likely facing a suspension at some point from the league. The Kansas City Chiefs upgraded their offense this offseason when they signed wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown to a 1-year, $7 million worth, up to $11 million through incentives. The addition of Brown was such a cap-savvy move by general manager Brett Veach that Bleacher Report's Alex Kay has named Brown's deal with Kansas City as one of the NFL's top 6 most team-friendly contracts. The 27-year-old was one of the biggest steals of the 2024 free agency signing period. He could have cashed in with a long-term contract worth up to $15 million per season elsewhere, but he opted to take a short-term deal to help Patrick Mahomes and co-chase an unprecedented 3rd consecutive Super Bowl, Kay wrote on July 10th. Kay went on to compare Brown's situation to former Chiefs WR Juju Smith-Schuster's, who inked a 1-year prove-it deal with Kansas City in 2022, played well during the 2022 season, and got a payday in 2023 as a result. Juju Smith-Schuster experienced a similar career revitalization in Kansas City 2 years ago, inking an incentivized 1-year contract that ultimately paid him $10.2 million for the 2022 season, Kay continued. He responded with his best performance since his breakout sophomore campaign and went on to earn a 3-year deal from the New England Patriots after winning a ring with the Chiefs. Brown should follow in Smith-Schuster's footsteps, returning an immense amount of value on what will likely be a 1-year, $11 million contract before going on to net a long-term deal from a more cap-flush squad in 2025. The second story is the Kansas City Chiefs are likely going to be without their best wide receiver from last season for a good portion of the year, so the team could look to free agency for some depth. In a recent article by Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox, he lists 10 bargain bin free agents that could still have an impact on any team that signs them. One of the players he mentions is veteran receiver Michael Thomas, and the Chiefs could be an intriguing destination. At 31, Thomas probably isn't returning to the ranks of the elite. However, he's still a 6'3", 212-pound veteran who's capable of contributing, Knox writes. Thomas will likely have to agree to a team-friendly deal to find his next opportunity, but he's worth a flyer based on past production and skill set alone. The team will be without Rashee Rice for a good portion of the season, as his suspension is still looming. So getting a veteran presence like Thomas for cheap could be just what the team needs. He has been on and off the field the past few years due to injuries, but he is still solid when he is playing. Thomas finished this past season with 448 yards on 39 receptions in the 10 games that he played with the New Orleans Saints. The Chiefs are looking for their third straight Super Bowl, so signing a guy like Thomas to be their WR3 could be a solid option. Atop their cornerback depth chart, the Kansas City Chiefs boast Trent McDuffie as one of the NFL's very best young defensive players. Given the absence of L'Jarius Sneed, however, does it make sense for the reigning champs to keep adding? Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson make for a nice start and set a baseline for competition. One Pro Football Network analyst believes Kansas City could be a good fit for one of the sport's top remaining free agents, though. Taking a look around the league, Lorenzo Reyna recently dove into one signing every NFL team should make before training camps begin later this month. For the Chiefs, he went with longtime Miami Dolphins cornerback Xavier Howard. With that said, the four-time Pro Bowler and 2020 All-Pro would carry plenty of baggage with him to his next team as things currently stand. Consider the Kansas City Chiefs as another team that's capable of bringing in Howard amid his controversy, Reyna wrote. Andy Reid has worked with players who faced a distraction away from the field. But for the Super Bowl champs, there's room for one more CB after losing L'Jarius Sneed. Howard comes off as a prized complement to rising star Trent McDuffie. It's been a rough offseason for Howard, who was the Miami Dolphins' longest-tenured player when the club released him back in March. In the weeks and months since, he's remained on the free agent market and witnessed that becoming the least of his worries. Last month, it was revealed that Howard was accused in a lawsuit of sending sexually explicit content to then underage son of an ex-girlfriend. The third story is Chris Jones asks Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes to re-sign former teammate for Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have one final roster spot to fill for the 2024-25 NFL season, and Chris Jones has a firm fit for who he wants to take it as he calls for Andy Reid to sign Frank Clark, although salary cap space could pose an issue. Clark, who played with the Missouri-based team from 2019-2022, clearly left an impression by helping them win Super Bowls LV and LVII before he headed to the Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks. But now, the linebacker, with the third most sacks in NFL postseason history, is free to pick up after being waived by the Seahawks on December 30th, and Jones feels as though the 31-year-old is a missed personality in the Chiefs' camp. "Chiefs, please get him back. Stone Cold Jones 5, please help get him back," was the plea that went out on Instagram on Tuesday, July 2nd, to which Jones gave his seal of approval by responding online. "Bring the slime back," Jones said, reposting the image of Clark working out in the gym, looking in fine shape, to his personal Instagram account. However, Jones doesn't feel as though he would be enough of a voice on his own. In the past, he said he simply isn't as influential as other voices in the Chiefs camp, such as Patrick Mahomes, the team's star quarterback and franchise player, so he might be looking for the three-time Super Bowl champion to second his cause. The Chiefs' final roster spot is there for the taking, and with $13 million in salary cap space, it could be a decent payday for an out-of-work player such as Frank if he's willing to take a pay cut from what he earned at the Broncos and Seahawks. But this is uncertain. And it's equally uncertain that the Chiefs will sign anyone at all. They don't need the full roster to be occupied at the moment, and they could wait until after their training camp to see if there are any immediate weaknesses to fill that they previously didn't notice. For example, last season they were blindsided by a sudden receiver issue that saw their offense almost grind to a halt as their defense essentially rescued their season by keeping them in play just enough to get to the postseason, which they went on to win. Kansas City Chiefs superstar Travis Kelce and ex-NFL star and older brother Jason Kelce kicked off their latest New Heights podcast episode with an announcement on July 3rd. Thanks for tuning into this episode. It's the end of Season 2, which I don't even know what seasons mean. We just do this show, Jason Kelce began, adding, "All that means to us is that we got a nice couple months off from podcasting.